He was the mediator that restored a relationship between man and God. You and I bear the image of Jesus to represent him. If you don't think God's present in the wilderness, we need to have a conversation. If you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all the people, for all the earth is mine. And you shall become to me note this, kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you should speak to the people of Israel. God has a desire. He already said they were his chosen. He already said, you're my people. But he had further work for them to do, but they had to do something in return to suffer the positive consequences of a choice. If you do what I'm asking you to do, you will have this happen to you. And then he said, you shall become a kingdom of priests. Just so you know what a priest did in the Old Testament is he was the mediator that restored a relationship between man and God. He wanted a nation of people who were going to go out and restore the relationship of humanity to God himself. A nation of priests. Not just one, but a nation. Now, I'm sure this confused the Jews. They're probably like, what? We're all going to be priests? I thought that was only the Levites. What are we doing? They may have said that, but he chose a specific nation to do what? To represent him. I'm going to fast forward a couple thousand years. You and I bear the image of Jesus, of God himself, to represent him, to be in between humanity that doesn't know him and God himself. Did you know that 1 Peter says that if you trusted Christ as your Savior, you've become a priest type? You're to reconcile others to God. Did you know that? Read it. 1 Peter chapter 2. It's there. Interesting, because this is really crazy. Why would God say this? 430 plus years in captivity in Egypt. Moses, let my people go. Okay, I'll let him go. They go through the Red Sea. Pharaoh, oops, I made a mistake. Go get those people. God says to Moses, stretch out your hand, stretch out your staff, and I'll separate the water. He separates the water. 1 million people go through in one night. Do the math. It'll take you a minute. God still had a plan. They get into and through the Red Sea. The Red Seas close in on the armies of Pharaoh. They go into this new journey, and God says to Moses, build an altar, build a shrine so that you can always remember what I did for you, so you can go back to something. Israel had a history of disobedience. So do we. 430 plus years in Egypt. Next event, 40 years in the wilderness because they disobeyed God. They didn't want to go into the promised land that God had for them. They lacked faith. Then after that, 70 years of captivity in Babylonia. Yuck. Who would want to be in the nation of Israel? Come on. Don't forget, these are my cherished people. I know what's going on with them, but I still love them. And I still have made promises to them. Genesis, you can read it. He promised a nation. He promised the land. He promised blessing. And let me say this one thing to you about God. When God promises something, he doesn't go back on a promise. And I don't care what current event says. God will still fulfill every promise that he made in this book to his chosen people. It's going to happen. Well, I just can't see it happening. It's not a matter of you seeing it happen. It's a matter of God knowing it's going to happen because he said it would. We have to understand who we're talking about here. You know, much of Israel's history was going through making choices and learning lessons. Does this sound familiar? God brings you through a big thing, and you think everything's good for like a millisecond. And then he's got something else for you that feels like the wilderness. Let me just tell you one thing. If you don't think God's present in the wilderness, we need to have a conversation. You know, he was very present with the people that actually disobeyed him. He provided for them manna, food, water to drink. Don't lose heart.